So I struggle with the medical procedure and I struggle with 20 weeks, and that's why I won't be supporting this bill.
Simeon Brown.
Mr. Speaker, it is with heavy heart that I rise to speak to the abortion legislation bill. While I know that this is a contentious issue with strong opinions and perhaps emotions on both sides, I make no apology in expressing my opposition to this bill and urging my fellow MPs across this House to oppose it. In the brief time I have this afternoon, I want to outline why I cannot, in good conscience, support this bill. Before I begin, Mr. Speaker, I'll put on the record that I am someone who has a pro-life conviction, a view that I'm not ashamed of. I do believe that all lives matter, old or young, male or female, black or white, born or unborn. I do not approach this issue with any judgment. The difficult situations that many women find themselves in every day where they consider ending their pregnancy, whether that be an unplanned pregnancy, a violent relationship, or financial difficulties. I can understand why they would want to end their pregnancy. However, the question we must ask ourselves as legislators is how we can care for both the mother and the child, particularly when the child becomes viable to life outside the mother's womb. And I'd like to acknowledge the Minister, Andrew Little, who referenced this in his opening statement in regards to this bill. I note that this is not a view taken by all, but it is my personal conviction and one that I know many New Zealanders hold to by the vast amount of correspondence I've received this week on this issue. I also know that many New Zealanders do support safe, legal and rare abortion. However, they also hold concerns over late-term abortions. Polling indicates that only a small percentage of New Zealanders support liberalising abortion post 20 weeks of pregnancy, something that this bill does. Mr. Speaker, some have said it is scaremongering to suggest that this bill will allow late-term abortion and they are very rare and only required for serious medical need. I contend that if that is what is intended, then that is what should be reflected in this piece of legislation. This bill will allow for abortion at late stages of pregnancy in circumstances where there is no medical need other than the loose and what I think undefined parameters in Clause 7. This is very different from the current law, which states that abortion after 20 weeks is only available if necessary to save the life of the woman or prevent serious permanent injury to her physical or mental health, a position which I believe remains much more in step with the views of New Zealanders. Some would argue that these late-term abortions are extremely rare, so not worth talking about. But how does that follow? MPs must answer the question themselves. Is the child born or unborn at 24 weeks deserving of some form of legal protection due to its viability outside the mother's womb? If yes, then they should be protected by law. Regardless of how rare such abortions are, it is our job as legislators to provide legal protection for these vulnerable New Zealanders. This child can respond to stimuli, can recognise sounds, especially the sound of his or her own mother's voice. Developmentally, there is no difference between the born and unborn 24-week child. It is simply a question of position. The question also needs to be answered whether this bill will allow for abortion of disabled children, such as with Down syndrome or for sex selection. Concerning questions which I hope will be answered. Mr. Speaker, to be a parent is one of the most common things in our world, but is also a very strange and unique position. A child makes demands not just on a mother's body, but on her emotions, time, and life in a way that is simply incomparable to any other human relationship. This is not just true in pregnancy, it's also true after the child is born. 4 months ago, my wife and I welcomed a beautiful little daughter into the world, and these truths have been brought home to me more than ever. I'm so grateful of all the support for Rebecca and for our child and for... Sorry, Mr. Speaker. To have a child is an overwhelming and for some people distressing time, but it's our responsibility as legislators to care for both the mother and the child. I cannot, Mr. Speaker, in good conscience support this bill. However, I respect every member's views on this issue. I hope that we will see amendments made in this bill to ensure some legal protection for children post 20 weeks. Thank you.
Members can resume seat for a second. I've been taking careful note of members who've been repeatedly going for the call. There are 4 members in that category. That would take us slightly over the time, only by about 5 minutes. And what I would like to do is seek the leave of the House for this debate to be extended so we have another 4 speeches. Is there any objection to that? There appears to be none. Ginny Anderson.